at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show, a game preview show, 49ers versus Washington Commanders. And what a matchup this is going to be. It just got a little bit better yesterday with the news about Chase Young playing for the Washington Commanders. The news that it's very likely that Javon Kinlaw is going to be activated and ready to go. The 49ers defensive line is going to be at full strength. The Washington Commanders defensive line is going to be at full strength. This is going to be a huge matchup. Washington coming into the game with a lot on the line. They need to hold on to that 7th seed after losing that tough divisional battle to the New York Football Giants last week. And now they've got a daunting task because the San Francisco 49ers on an absolute tear, winning 7 straight games. A 49ers defense that is number 1 in almost every single category, including run defense, which is what the Washington Commanders want to do. It's going to be a fun matchup. I broke down the all 22 of Commanders versus Giants. I feel pretty comfortable with who the Commanders are as a football team. And what is up to everyone in chat? How's it all going? Traffic, Jan. Hey, yo, Jan. Cowboy Angel, what's up? How's it going? And then Paul and Donald in chat as well. This is going to be an exciting episode. And if you guys have questions or anything you would like to talk about, go ahead and leave it in chat. I'll try to get to everything. We'll have a fun one here. Because, it's a little over 24 hours tomorrow, and the San Francisco 49ers are going to take the field at Levi Stadium. And just listening to what George Kittle, Trent Williams, and a lot of these veteran players are saying, they're going in there understanding that they have an opportunity. I mean, Trent Williams talked about the outside opportunity as the number 1 seed, but I think they all fully understand that the number 2 seed is within reach. Last week, if the Colts hold on to that lead the San Francisco 49ers would be the number 2 seed. And like Trent Williams said, it's very important. You want to win the division. That's the big goal, to start, to get into the playoffs, to get into that race. But then to get as many home games as you possibly can. Of course, if you could get the number 1 seed, you could get a bye. I think that's tough, even with the injury to Jalen Hurts. But the 49ers want to catch the Minnesota Vikings. You want round 2 for the Vikings to have to come to you. That's just a really, really good situation for the Niners. So I think that you're going to see the best effort from the 49ers, at least for this week, probably next week against the Raiders as well. As long as they continue to win, they're going to want to keep playing this thing out. And if Minnesota falls, they're going to have to hold on to that lead. But I think that we're going to have a fun into the season. But this Washington Commanders team is so interesting because, yeah, they got Taylor Heineke, and, he's one of those guys that a lot of people really talk positively about. I like parts of his game. I like the improvisation. I like the fact he wants to go out there and gunsling, and, he's got a pretty good arm. He's not got huge measurables, size, height, speed, but what he is he's a competitor. And, guys like Ron Rivera and defensive coaches like, Rivera and Jack Del Rio, I'm sure they like a guy that wants to go out there and make plays. And so Heineke is going to lead this offense, and it's interesting because they made that big trade for Carson Wentz. Now, Carson Wentz is not going to, play in this game potentially. We've started hearing people talking about maybe this is the game where Carson Wentz comes in. Jay Hill said it on the Hill Show, and then Mike Florio said it on Chris Sims Unbuttoned. So there is some conversation about that quarterback position for the Washington Commanders, but they have all kinds of talent. You talk about that running back room with Brian Robinson, the rookie out of Alabama. He's running physical. He's running hard. He's helping move the sticks. And that's why Washington's had success on the ground. But they also have Antonio Gibson. And Gibson is a dual threat guy. He can run the ball in the backfield. He can go line up in the slot and catch the ball. And there's a lot of opportunities for them to get those running backs out and allow them to create space. And they've had great success doing that. Last week against the Giants, they did just that. They cleared out with their wide receivers and with tight end Logan Thomas, and then allowed free space for that running back to be able to get the ball and run. The problem is the places where they are really strong as far as checking down to running backs and getting the ball over the middle is a strength for the 49ers. That's where Fred Warner and Big Play Dre Greenlaw reside. And they not only make the tackle, but they hit you. And if you're not on one of them, you're probably dealing with Jimmy Ward. And Ward has been flying around making plays. Hufanga lights you up. It's one of those interesting matchups because they got talent. We just talked about the running backs, but they got talent at receiver too. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Yami Brown. It's a very, very talented group for the Washington Commanders. But the 49ers defense is spectacular. So this is one of those ones that's interesting. Now, one of the things that I've found about watching the Commanders is Terry McLaurin's he's fantastic. I like him. But he's not one of those guys you put in the top category of those elite guys. He's not Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean? He's not one of those guys you're like Stephon Diggs. We have to make sure we stop him. Cooper Kupp. He's pretty good. So you can game plan some of your game plan around him to take him away. But I don't think you have to be like, you know what, Charvarius, go cover him the entire game. I don't think he's that guy. They have a lot of speed and they're able to stretch the football field, but I just think that when it comes down to it, this 49ers defense is not going to have to change as much from what they normally do. So let me make sure I'm not missing any of these questions and things like that. And Donald says, should the 49ers use Mason more? I think, Mason's carries are dependent on the flow of the game. I think last week they had a full understanding that they were going to go to Seattle. They wanted to clinch the game, and that Christian McCaffrey is going to be a big part of the game plan because they knew they had 10 days before the next game. So they used McCaffrey. You want to make sure you secure the division. And then after that, I think Mason could have had an increased role this week as they somewhat tapered down what Christian McCaffrey does. But now Mason's dealing with a little bit of a hamstring. So I don't know exactly what his status is going to be for the game. He's officially listed as questionable. Does that mean he doesn't play? Does that mean he plays, but they really need his value on special teams and for a few runs? I think that is going to be interesting because, if Jordan Mason is not able to really take those carries, Kyle Shanahan talked about, the fact that TDP had missed his opportunity, but might have an opportunity to run the ball a little bit in this football game. So do I think Jordan Mason could carry the ball a little bit more? Yes. I think that, 8 to 10 touches a game for Jordan Mason is where the 49ers want to be, because I think if you're hitting 8 to 10, you're thinking to yourself, well, McCaffrey's getting the rest and you've ran the ball 35 plus times and you're sitting pretty, but we'll see exactly what happens with Jordan Mason and the hamstring. I think that throws a little bit of a wrench into what the 49ers want to do on the ground with Mason and maybe how his role would expand over the next few weeks. But I think that's a good question from Donald. Dan says Taylor Heineke, Beer Heineken, Car Meineke, don't matter, Niners by 3. I love the usage of the names. Well done, Jan. And now I can totally see, the meme, and you got Brock Purdy sitting there with the bandana and the cigarette in his mouth and the whole thing. Well done. Bobo says Heineke will be benched and Ron Rivera will be fired after this game. I love that. Is that where you're going with the bold prediction, Bobo? I hope, I actually like Ron Rivera. I think he's one of those guys. He's a good leader of men. But that franchise is a little bit in disarray at the top part of, overall with Dan Snyder and everything like that. So football-wise, they've made some pretty good decisions throughout the years. But, they have missed on the quarterback. And I think they really did want Jimmy Garoppolo during the offseason. But with the shoulder injury, they were hesitant to pull the trigger. They end up with Carson Wentz, and it doesn't end up good. But that defense is really good. When you look at the defense of the Washington Commanders, led by Jack Del Rio, I don't know how many people knew that Jack Del Rio was their defensive coordinator. But, you have Chase Young, first-round pick, Deron Payne, first-round pick, Jonathan Allen, first-round pick, Montez Sweat, first-round pick. Reminds you of 2019. When the 49ers had Bosa and Ford and Buckner and Armstead, all first-round picks, and they were coming after people with reckless abandon. That's kind of what you get from this group. Now, I mean, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Chase Young's one of those guys. He's a complete defensive end. He can set the edge against the run. He can rush the passer. He's able to bend the corner on you, but also can walk you back into the quarterback. He's very talented. With Montez Sweat, he does a little bit more with speed. So I think that, this team is very talented. Now, where I see a little bit of a weakness is when you get to the linebacker group. Now, they're names that are familiar. You know what I mean? Your middle linebackers, John Bostic. Your Sam linebackers, Jamin Davis, who we all like coming out of Kentucky. He's athletic. He's big. He's strong. I think he's going to develop into a very nice player. And then they got David Mayo. So they're names but overall, they're not great as far as run fits. I mean, they do pretty good. but they're not like the 49ers linebackers. And I think that's a little bit of the separation between the two rosters. And then when you get into, the secondary, Benjamin St-Juste out of Minnesota, he's dealing with a little bit of an ankle, but he's big, he's tall, he's physical. If you're running, a cover 3, he fits very nice with what you want to do on defense. I worry about him a little bit in man-to-man. Then they got Kendall Fuller playing the other side. And then their safeties, Cameron Curl, he's dealing with an ankle as well. He'll play, though. And Derek Forrest, I think that is a little bit of their weakness. I think what's funny is I'm looking at the roster, and I forgot that they had gotten Percy Butler, who, when Vish came on during all the draft days and the war room, that was one of the guys he was very high on was Percy Butler, and he's sitting there as one of the backup safeties. I think that's interesting, but their defense is very talented. It's very good. I think it's going to be a nice test for Brock Purdy in this 49ers offense. Just going through the names alone should make people, have some questions like, hey, you know what? These guys are pretty good. Traffic said we had to root for the Cowboys against the Rams. Do we really have to root for them a second time now? Yeah, I think we have to root for the Cowboys because it helps the 49ers. I mean, and what's bad, Traffic, you might have to do it again in the playoffs. If they travel to Philly and the 49ers are sitting there, in that 2-3 matchup, which I'm sure they will in the divisional round, we'll have to probably root for the Cowboys again so the 49ers can have the NFC Championship at home. So it's not going to be very fun, in those games that we have to root for the boys. But overall, it's a good situation for the 49ers. This week is interesting because I think if you're an old-time 49ers fan, like, I lived all through I was born in the 80s, but I really respect the game. And so I've watched all of it. And the 80s were big for me. So I've watched a lot of those games, the 90s as well. The New York Football Giants are one of the biggest rivals to me because of Bill Parcells, and that group that came up and played against the 49ers. They were tough in 86. They were really tough in 1990. So they were, a big part of the NFL and a rival for the 49ers because they were the opposite physical defensive teams, led by Parcells and Belichick, and Belichick's wanting to learn the West Coast offense because he wanted to be able to stop Bill Walsh. So we have to root for the Giants against the Minnesota Vikings. So it's not going to be easy for 49er fans. I don't really care for the New York Giants very much. So that's going to be tough for me as well. But when I'm looking at the 49ers versus Commanders, I think the key matchup for the 49ers on defense is to stop the run game. I know a lot of people would think, hey, maybe it's to put pressure on Taylor Heineke, but I think it is to stop overall what they want to do on offense, and that is run the football. And Brian Robinson has had a very successful, season. It was just last week against the New York Giants that he rushed, 12 times for 86 yards. A pretty nice gain. I'm actually surprised they didn't run the football more than just 12 times because he was able to, get extra yards beyond contact. He runs physical. He's very patient and reads the holes, but when he needs to hit the gas, he does it. And there was avenues to be able to run the football with that run game. And they don't just have Brian Robinson, but they also have Antonio Gibson too. He's a dual threat guy. So then you have to worry about him out of the backfield. Now, he's been dealing with injury all year, but he's healthy now. He's not listed on the injury report. So you're going to get a healthy running back room coming from the Commanders. Now, their offensive line, I think, is one of those ones they're pretty good against at run blocking. Where you can get them is in the pass game. Well, how do you get to them on 3rd and long? What you have to do is stop the run early and downs. If you stop them early and downs, you create 3rd and longs, then you can cause problems, for Charles Leno and for Andrew Norwell. Norwell being the left guard. Their guards are pretty good with Andrew Norwell and Trey Turner. But that's how you get to them. With Kinlaw coming back, Kinlaw and Armstead on the interior with Bosa and Ebicom, you talk about a run-stopping defensive line, that's the 49ers. And with Kinlaw coming back, if you single him up, he's going to get penetration. He's going to cause problems for you, which means they're going to have to somewhat double him. With that much attention, those 5 offensive linemen and probably a tight end are going to have to pay attention to those 4 defensive linemen. What that means for the 49ers, Fred Warner, Trey Greenlaw, Azeez Al-Shire. If Al-Shire's on the field, that means Jimmy Ward's on the field because it's nickel. Those guys are going to run free and be able to make plays. Here's another weakness that I found in the Washington Commanders run game. And they got a good run game, don't get me wrong. Is you've got smaller receivers. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, De'Ami Brown. They're not big. They're not physical at the point of attack. They're not helping you a lot in the run game. Do they get in the way? Yes. But if you're good at shedding blocks, you can get off of them and make tackles. And I think that's an advantage for the 49ers, where you have a big corner like Charvarius Ward. You have a big, nickel corner like Jimmy Ward. You have Talanoa Hufanga in the box lined up in these situations. Also, you go and watch the All-22. When they got Thibodeau and they got those guys from the New York Giants, the edge rushers, on Logan Thomas or John Bates, the tight ends, or the Commanders, they were able to push those guys into the backfield. And when that happened, that messed up the whole flow of the outside zone plays that they were running. It messed up some of the jet sweeps that they tried, the counters, which is all a part of their offense. They have a very interesting offense because they've got, a good, coach and offense. They got Scott Turner, Norv Turner's son. He's the one that runs the offense. Lots of motion, lots of movement. So the 49ers, are going to have opportunities to stop the run, and a lot of it is because personnel-wise, I'm not sure the Washington Commanders are as physical at tight end and receiver as they need to be one of those teams that can run the football as consistently as the 49ers. 49ers are walking out there with some really talented players. So, yeah, and Paul's saying I'm just a baby. I was born in 1982, so I'm 40 years old, turned 40 this year. So Michael says to stop the run game, we need to score early and often and put them in a hole, which will force them to pass more. I mean, that's one way to do it, right? I mean, if you go ahead and get up, that will change the philosophy of the team. Now, one thing I did see is even last week when they were losing against the Giants, they still ran the football. He's a Turner, Scott Turner. He's going to be dedicated to that run game, but you're right. Scoring points and putting them in a deficit. You get up 14 to the 49ers defense, and now you have to throw the football more than you wanted to. That's when you start getting sacks. That's when you start making huge plays. So, yeah. So, Jan says, you're not wrong, my guy. Always love when you bring that out, Jan. And Kelts, what's going on? How's it going? Welcome to chat. And Kelts says, has Lenoir gotten enough love for the way he stepped up? 0 TDs allowed. I don't think he has, Kelts. I don't. I think that he's naturally a target because you got Charvarius Ward on the other side. And Charvarius Ward, he's been playing lights out. So, you've got to think the attention goes to Jimmy Ward, which that's exactly what Tampa Bay tried to do. They tried to put a lot of attention on Jimmy Ward. They went after him, I think it was like 19 times, and Jimmy Ward held up. So the next progression is Deommodore Lenoir. Miami tried it, a little errant pass. Lenoir ends up with an interception. Last week, Lenoir drove on that football and made a great interception. But, it was called back because of the Bosa roughing the passer. But I think Lenoir has played very well. I think Lenoir hasn't gotten as much credit as like Ambry Thomas got last year for the way he played when he stepped up because of injury. But I think Lenoir's playing better. And one thing Lenoir doesn't do is miss tackles. That dude flies up and makes plays. And I think that can't be ignored either, especially against teams that want to run quick screens, which Washington does. I mean, they want to get it to Scary Terry out in the flat. They want to get it to Curtis Samuel out of the backfield. Those are things that are a part of this offense. So Lenoir and Charvarius Ward being able to tackle outside, Jimmy Ward being one of the best against the run in the league out of the nickel corner spot, I think it just makes it, one of those tough defenses to play. The difference between this defense and 2019 is this defense is better against the run than 2019. I mean, they just are. Now, did they lose something with Buckner as far as pass rush and D Ford to pass rush? Absolutely. If you had those guys as far as pass rush goes, your pass rush is elite. I don't think this pass rush is elite, even though I think Bosa is really, really great with Armstead. It's back. I think they have a very good pass rush. What is elite though with Kinlaw and Armstead and the way that the secondary players play is the run stopping ability. So I think that's one thing. Jan says Washington receivers are too small to block and be physical. Yeah, I think so. I think they give up a little bit of size. I mean, they have a lot of wiggle. They can make plays out on the edge with the quick screens. I mean, Terry McLaurin did it last week. But the New York Giants, in the second half of that football game, played like 10 yards off for the entire third quarter. They just gave them space. And so the adjustment for Scott Turner in that offense was, let's come out, let's get the ball in our playmakers' hands and let them make plays. And they did it. So when Thibodeau and that Giants defense came after Heineke, that defensive line, they were able to get the ball to the outside and with a lot of space for those guys to be able to create. Do not give these guys space. Make sure you tackle them as soon as they get the football. I think that is very important. So that's kind of where I see that part of the game going. It's very very good for the 49ers as far as matchup goes. And Cowboy says that pick six should have been his. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was one of those ones, right, where we were going to start talking about Deommodore Lenoir because of the huge play, and instead it kind of gets put to the back burner. But Lenoir's playing really well, and I expect that to continue. So I'm excited about their game, and Kelt says big props to Hufanga, Lenoir evaluating their game, elevating their game. Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's the thing. Hufanga's played pretty good all year. He's been fun to watch. Hufanga, had a couple of hiccups here and there, but he's a very instinctive player. He creates turnovers, 4 interceptions. That's not what we normally get from the safety position. And then you're getting turnovers from Jimmy Ward in the nickel, which I think is huge. K'Wan Williams was, used to making plays. So yeah, and Sacktown Izzy says Lenoir keeps on improving. And Ronnie Montoya is calling for a Trent Williams for a tutty this weekend. If that's your wow, that's bold. That is absolutely fantastic. Wow, well done. I love that. I always love the wow, that's bold segment. I mean, and we're gonna get there too. So Ronnie, that's a fun one. Now for the 49ers on the offensive side of the ball, what is the key matchup to take advantage of? It is running the football and using screens to limit the effectiveness of the Washington Commanders defensive line. We talked about it earlier. You look at Chase Young and Montez Sweat, Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen, spectacular defensive front. So you've got to be able to occupy those guys. And one of the ways you slow them down, because you don't want 3rd and 8 with Mike McGlinchey and Trent Williams on an island. Now, Trent Williams can handle his own, but you don't want that because you get McGlinchey on an island. If he's going against Sweat, he's got to deal with the speed rush. If he's going against Chase Young, he's probably going to deal with a bull rush, and he's going to get walked back into the quarterback. Those are not advantageous situations for the 49ers. So what do you do to go about it? You have to get the run game going. And there are what I call bubbles. Anyone that goes, has seen my breakdowns that I do for Patreon knows I talk about bubbles in a defense. And what's a bubble? It's an area that the defense leaves open that you can exploit as an offensive play caller. So a lot of times you have gaps for an offensive line, or a defense calls them, gaps. You have holes for offensive line, but defense calls them gaps. A, B, C, D is between each player, right? Between center and guard, A, between, guard and tackle, B, between tackle and tight end, C. Outside of that, you could have a D gap potentially, depending on what the formation is. What you want to do is take advantage of the gaps that are open. And sometimes defenses, because of their alignment, will leave huge gap, maybe 2 gaps open. That's when you have to take advantage in the run game. Okay, you've got, Chase Young lined up outside of George Kittle, and you've got Daron Payne lined up over Daniel Brunskill. That means there's no one head up on Mike McGlinchey and no one head up on George Kittle. So you can see there's a huge gap there. That's a bubble. And those are areas you can take advantage of. It doesn't mean you block, Chase Young with George Kittle. You can send him and Mike McGlinchey up to second level. McGlinchey can help with Brunskill, push down, and then you're able to use Kyle Juszczyk, use one of the other tight ends, or pull Aaron Banks to kick out Chase Young, and that creates a natural avenue to run the football. There are bubbles in this defense, and the 49ers are going to look for formations to find them. But that's what you're going to have to do, is run the football. If you run the football, you use the clock, you keep your defense off the field, but you're going to slow down that pass rush because you don't want to give them opportunities to be able to get after you, in a very physical way. If it gets to 3rd and long, it's going to be tough. It really is. And what's up to Raphael in chat? I see Raphael. What's up to Pete? And what's up, Spy Nick Danger? How's it going? I think that is the first thing. Run the football. I think this would have been a week for Jordan Mason to get a little bit extra carries because, that physical run style could kind of wear down that defense. And you do have an advantage of your offensive linemen against those linebackers. And Mr. International says McGlinchey has also shown some signs of improvement. 100%, Mr. International, 100%. I am not definitely a Mike McGlinchey hater. I just like putting Mike McGlinchey in the best situation to be successful. We know what McGlinchey's strengths and weaknesses are. One of his strengths is run blocking. Fantastic. Another thing that he does really well, slide protections, moving the pocket. He does really good in those situations. The ones that he's not as good is when he goes ahead and has to do a traditional kick slide and traditional pass sets. Those can be a little troublesome for him. Now, do I think he's moving a lot better now than he was early on in the year? Yes. I think he's finally getting healthy. I mean, that was no joke of an injury that Mike McGlinchey was overcoming. And I think he's finally getting past it now. So I'm excited about where he's going, and I'm excited about the offense. And that run game just helps everyone. I mean, it just helps the interior offensive line too. We want Banks, we want Spencer Burford, Daniel Brunskill, Jake Brendel to feel comfortable, and that's going to be a battle on the inside. So you're right, he has improved. And what's up to everyone that just jumped in chat as well? What's up, Mr. International? I know I'm answering your question, but I wanted to say what's up. And what's up, Tommy Huxley? How's it going, everyone? So I think that, this is one of those matchups. And then, talking about the screen game, it can be very beneficial to the 49ers because you can invite Chase Young and Montez Sweat, who are, freak athletes, get them going up the field and then be able to get the ball out, whether it's a wide receiver with a bubble screen or it is a screen to Christian McCaffrey. Invite those guys upfield, let your offensive line get going, because that will slow down the pass rush as well. They'll start getting them going upfield, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're having to somewhat slow rush. Also, another big part of this football game is Brock Purdy's ability to navigate the pocket and then to escape the pocket. The way that the Washington Commanders attack, they don't always keep rush lane integrity. Those four guys, and they probably won't think they have to, because Purdy, it's not like he's not Lamar Jackson. He's not a running quarterback, but he does have the legs to be able to create. So if you get those two edge rushers flying up the field, it's going to leave avenues for him to be able to escape and then create down the field where he always has his eyes, but also to run and pick up key first downs. I think that's a part that a lot of people don't really think about when they're thinking about Brock Purdy, but he gives the team that option. I mean, some of the plays he made against Miami where he would evade defenders, get outside the pocket, make a sidearm throw to Brandon Ayuk. I mean, those things are ridiculously good. So I'm excited about it. Yeah, and Tommy says Brock Purdy is fast in 10 yards. He is. He's got one of the fastest 10-yard splits, top 95 percentile, I believe. So it's good. And what's up, Freddie McDre? Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a good holiday season. In fact, I hope everyone is. So I think that's one of the, the interesting things that Brock Purdy adds to this offense. You expected it with Trey Lance, escapability, being able to evade and then create off-schedule throws and off-platform throws. But I didn't know what we were going to get from Brock Purdy, and he's able to do it. It is fantastic the way he's able to get outside the pocket, and make those accurate throws when he's on the move and off platform. He just whips it. And it's not a guy that has like the most tremendously strong arm, but is strong enough. And so what you want to do is attack the linebacker group, because we went over who those linebackers for the Washington Commanders were. And it's not like they're bad. Don't get me wrong. I think they're solid players. David Mayo, John Bostic, Jamin Davis. And like I said, I love Jamin Davis coming out of Kentucky. I thought he was a very talented player. So I think he's got a huge upside. But getting those guys in matchups, and you could see what the Giants did a little bit with Saquon Barkley, that is a problem. The Giants would put Washington Commanders in their base 4-3 set, and then they would motion or get a running back out there one-on-one with the linebacker. So that's literally the 49ers offense, right? Get Christian McCaffrey out there lined up on one of these linebackers, and that's a problem. And so I think that that's another way the 49ers are going to take advantage, situationally using certain formation sets and personnel groupings to take advantage of some of the weaknesses of the Washington Commanders. They are not a complete defense. They're a good defense, and up front, they're one of the best defenses in the league. I think when it comes down to it, they may be the best pass rushing defense in the entire league now that they have Chase Young back. But beyond that, there are holes and weaknesses to be able to attack. So let's kind of remember that as Kyle Shanahan puts this offense together, and gets ready to go. 49ers Josh Blacksuit says, "What's good, bud? Seen you on, figured I would say hi and Merry Christmas and go Niners, baby. Smash the like button so other faithful can find such a good pod." Thank you so much, 49ers Josh. And have a great holiday too, to your, happy Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I hope you really enjoy this weekend. I think it's going to be a fun one. 49ers versus Commanders. So I think we're going to have something to cheer about. But yeah, it's a good time. It's nice to, be able to wish everyone, happiness, and the 49ers are winning. That makes it always easier. But yeah, thanks for coming through, 49ers Josh. Really appreciate it. And, just so everyone, I'm going to take the opportunity, if you haven't already, like the video. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. But tomorrow, after the game, join me for the live reaction show. I know there's a lot of really great reaction shows all throughout the 49ers content creators. But, you can come through and check it out. If you don't have one already, come check out, mine as well. If you're watching another one, check out the replay. So I really enjoy everyone that comes through. Paul says, heard some reports unsubstantiated that Mike McGlinchey's been playing with broken ribs. Ooh, I hadn't heard that, Paul. Something to keep an eye on. And, if that's the case, you got to give him props for gutting it out. So, if Mike McGlinchey's playing with an injury like that, I thought it just had to do with the leg, because the leg was just nasty to come back from. But the fact he could be dealing with ribs as well, you got to give him credit. And he has been playing better over the last 3 games. This is some of the best football Mike McGlinchey's played. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. And Kel says, Quest for 6? Nope. Revenge Tour? Nope. This team is different in the best way and needs a whole new rally cry. Last year was we ain't done yet. I wonder what this team has mustered up. That's a good point. And I think that, the 49ers, you'll always have something. I know lately there's been a push to try to figure out what to name this defense as well. I think it's going to come naturally. I really do. Tommy with the super chat says, Kyle and Trent Williams hate the Salamanders team. Yeah, they're not exactly fans of, the front office for sure. Daniel Snyder. I think that there has been a little bit of a change because Ron Rivera, I think they respect Ron Rivera. So I think that changes things a little bit. But as far as Daniel Snyder and ownership, yeah, they're not fans. So they're definitely not fans. And 49ers Josh says, I will come check it out for sure. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Juanito says, taking the parentals to the game tomorrow for their first game since the pick at the stick defense, ready to be on that arsenal. It's, what's crazy, Juanito, right? Is Candlestick Park, pick at the stick, and now they're going to watch this game. I think that is awesome. Well, great job for you taking the parentals to see that game. So big props to you. I hope you guys have a great time out there. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. And that just brought up all kinds of memories. Pick at the stick, Navarro Bowman with that interception, the full trail of off our defensive players, blocking for him diving into the end zone. Good feels right there. So yeah, I hope you guys all have a great time. I hope it's exciting, and I hope the 49ers get a big win, because it seems like your parentals are good luck. I mean, that was a big win for the 49ers and Jim Harbaugh, and hopefully they'll help us get a big win tomorrow. And Donald says, I'm not scared of any team. I think with the way the 49ers play defense and the way that they can run the football, you can't be scared of any team out there. These teams are talented. There's a lot of really good football teams out there, but you just can't be scared of Philadelphia. If you can run the football and you can play good defense, I think you'll be okay. And same with Dallas. So, are there good football teams? Yes. But when you play the style of football the 49ers play, you can't really be worried about it. What's up, Coach Tim? How's it going? Says, hey, Ant, Coach Tim here. It will be my last season. Just told I got liver cancer, 6 months to live. I'm hoping the 49ers win one last big one for me. My 50th year as a fan. I am so sorry to hear that, Coach Tim. I'm going to send prayers your way. I'm so sorry to hear about that diagnosis. And, hopefully the 49ers can get it done for you. That is very sad, and it's so bad to hear that. Sorry about that, Coach Tim. And I'm gonna send prayers your way. I really am. And you're one of the good dudes. So yeah. And Brandon just subscribed. Thanks so much, Brandon, for the subscription. Really, really appreciate it. Juanito with the super chat said, let's go Niners, and thanks for the content you created this entire year. Happy holidays to everyone, and let's keep riding the wave to the Super Bowl. Love that. And Coach Tim says, bless you all and our Niners team. Thank you so much, Coach Tim. Send well wishes to Coach Tim and just some prayers his way. It's really big. And Freddie McDre says, this is the best Niners team in a long time. That's how it feels, right? It gives you that energy of, there's just something different about him. That's how it felt in 2019, but even more so now, for whatever reason, just feels different. Matt says, what's up, Matt? How's it going? Matt Burgos in the house says, miss you, Ant. Hope you're doing well, and congrats, Cutback crew, on a great season thus far. Yeah, it's been spectacular. And, Matt been working hard on his own channel. He's got a really cool channel going where he, covers, all kinds of sports. Great job to him. And his Detroit Lions are doing pretty good, too. On the cusp of making the playoffs. So that's really good, Matt. So if you guys, if you guys haven't checked out North Valley Empire, you can see like video. If you're from the Northern Central Valley, you can see all 7-on-7. You can see a lot of youth sports on there. It's really cool. So check that out if you haven't. Kelt says McGlinchey does have horrible come on man moments, but props to him staying on the field all year after it looked like his career could be in jeopardy. Yeah, big props for going through it. It's really tough. And I think McGlinchey has gutted it out before. That's one thing I can always say about Mike McGlinchey. He gives full effort. He never gives up. He plays hard. And I think that's something you can respect in a player. So and thank you everyone for sending props over to, well wishes and love over to Coach Tim. He's a good dude. So thank you all for doing that. I really, really appreciate it. Brandon says, sorry, just join the chat. If Brock Purdy gets injured in the playoffs, will Jimmy G be healthy enough to play? So we did get a little bit of an update from John Lynch on the status of Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo has finally got out of his hard cast. So they put him in a hard cast to help, the injury healing process. Now he's in a boot. So he's in a boot right now. They think he's moving at a pretty good, rate as far as his healing process. But it's going to be potentially divisional round, maybe NFC Championship game. So hopefully Purdy doesn't get hurt. But at some point, Jimmy Garoppolo may be healthy enough to help this team. I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan not putting him on the IR signals they do believe there's a chance he could come back and at least be there in case Purdy needs him. And second, on top of that, is the fact that he's in every single meeting. John Lynch said he's going to all the meetings. He's helping Brock Purdy. I think that is such good news for the 49ers because if something, heaven forbid, happens to Brock Purdy in the playoffs, you had a player like Jimmy Garoppolo, a player like Trey Lance, whoever it is. I think Jimmy's the most likely because Trey's on IR and you don't have that many designations. I think that it makes sense to, have him available because he's an experienced guy who's played in the playoffs that can operate the offense that has a similar playing style to Brock Purdy. So hopefully that works. And Steve O Supremo, what's up, Steve-O? How's it going? Welcome to chat. Says 69 has 2 broken ribs also. Yeah, that's what Paul was saying earlier. So I had not heard that. So big information coming from Paul and Steve-O about, Mike McGlinchey dealing with broken ribs. Got to give him a lot of credit for going through, and being able to, continue to play and playing at a high level over the last 3 weeks. I mean, the dude's been in there battling. I've been excited about what I've seen from him. Coach Tim said, thank you all, and may your dreams come true and appreciate life. Cherish it and your families too. God bless. Take care all. Thanks, Coach Tim. Really appreciate that. Health says, I know Trey's injury was worse, but wouldn't Trey be more healthy than Jimmy? I don't know. I mean, I know his injury is a lot worse. I think the fact that, they keep saying there's no chance for Trey to come back makes me believe there's, actually no chance. I think if they kept saying like, oh, there's a chance, maybe, but it was a long shot for Trey to come back at any point. And then I think that, you're worried about him potentially getting re-injured. With Jimmy Garoppolo, if he comes back, and I hate to say it like this, but he comes back and pushes through an injury, he's going into free agency. He's not going to be on your roster next year. With Trey Lance, he's a guy you've invested in heavily that's going to be a part of your roster potentially for 3 more seasons. With a young guy, I think you're just going to be a little bit more careful, especially with the injury being more significant. But also, you only have 2 IR designations for them to come back. You're using one on Javon Kinlaw this week. So then you have Elijah Mitchell. And so you can either have Elijah Mitchell to be a 1-2 punch with Christian McCaffrey and then Jordan Mason handling into the game situations. Because you heard the way Kyle talked about Elijah Mitchell. He was talking very high on him. So I think that, potentially you're going to have Elijah Mitchell come back. I just don't think there's a spot for Trey Lance to come back. And really, I don't think he's going to be healthy. I think if he was, I think they would definitely be excited about entertaining that potential and possibility. Freddie says Purdy has to be the guy for this playoff run. I appreciate Jimmy G helping us to get there, but Purdy needs to play out the year. Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to, especially as he doesn't get hurt and he continues to play at the rate he's playing. There's no reason to make a quarterback change. You just roll with it. You know what I mean? I think what you're hoping is that Jimmy is able to come back. He's part of the 53 active roster. He's able to come back, so that way if you get to the NFC Championship game, Jimmy G's your backup, and it's not Josh Johnson. It's just improving your team in every area. But I don't think we're actually talking, about a start. Lance Briggs. Wow, I love the name, Lance Briggs. Linebacker, great linebacker. Says Jimmy G is good. He's just not a scrambling quarterback. Yeah, 100% agree. Jimmy Garoppolo within the confines of the pocket, that quick release, getting the ball out on time, he does a good job. The problem is he can't create outside the pocket, even though he did have some off-schedule plays like the Christian McCaffrey touchdown, down the sideline in the end zone. So Jimmy, since 2017 and after that, the 2018 injury, hasn't really created off-schedule throws and off-platform throws. Those things have kind of changed. I felt like his arm definitely was stronger this year, though. So I think that Jimmy's making some plays. I want Jimmy as the backup. Don't get me wrong. I think for this playoff run, I would love to have Jimmy as the backup. Freddie says, if we win a Super Bowl with Purdy, is that the end of Trey? I don't think that means it's the end of Trey. I think that, the 49ers could ultimately decide that. But, I mean, when you have a quarterback, commodity like Trey at the price that you have, you could roll into next season. I mean, you still have 3 more years with Trey you could have under contract. You have the 2 that are naturally a part of his contract, but then a 5th-year option as well because he was a first-round pick. I don't think you have to make any decisions in year 3. You wanted to have a strong quarterback room. You're on your 3rd quarterback. I mean, next year you go into the season, let's say, Brock wins the Super Bowl. Let's say Brock Purdy's the quarterback. Well, you have Trey as the backup. Something that happens to Brock, you got Trey ready to roll. I think it's year 4 that you start making a decision because then there's you're wondering what that value would be for Trey on the open market. Now, I think if they're blown away and Purdy had won a Super Bowl, you might see them make a move. If a team is really desperate to go get a quarterback, because then you could get some of those, some of that draft capital back. Kenny says no team can beat this defense. Yeah, the defense is fantastic. I mean, they're playing at historic levels with a league that has changed the rules to make it more difficult on the defense. They're playing at such a high rate, 15 points per game, number 1 against the run, number 1 against the pass. It's been a spectacular year on defense. And what's up, Scott Hill? How's it going? Hope you're having a good day and a nice Friday as we prepare for these holidays that are coming up. Freddie says this team rolls with Purdy, stumbles to score anything under Lance. They do roll with Purdy right now. And, I don't know what this offense would have looked like with Trey if the season would have progressed, but I do know what it looked like with Jimmy, and I know what it looks like with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's been exciting to watch. I'm ready to roll with it, and we'll see how it plays out. If the Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl, I'm going to be one of the happiest fans ever. I wouldn't have cared if it was Jimmy. I wouldn't have cared if it was Trey. I just want to see the 49ers win the Super Bowl. But, I think when we get to the offseason, it's going to make for some interesting questions, and there's going to be a lot of time to talk about it then for sure. And he says, if we can score on defense tomorrow, it would greatly help our offense. Yeah, I think so. Go out there and make some plays on defense. It always helps your offense, and it just gives them more opportunities. It's all about opportunities, especially for a young quarterback. The more opportunities you give an offense, number 1, to move the football, but number 2, to score, you would think it would increase your scoring chances, but also limit the time the defense is on the field, which is a big part of what they need to do. So that's really big in this game. Brandon says, question, do you think Chiefs' loss was a fluke? I mean, how many 49ers defensive linemen were injured in that game? It's one of those things where I think the 49ers came into that game, and you're right, they have some injuries, but also the Kansas City Chiefs came out there and did something that the 49ers hadn't saw yet. The way they attacked, with the run game to the outside, they were able to get the ball down the field vertically. I think those were big reasons why. I think after that, it galvanized. And, this is no different. The 49ers have suffered big losses in seasons before. In 1994, they suffered a big loss to the Eagles. I think it was like 40-8 or something of that nature. It was just a huge blowout. And then the 49ers team responded and went on a huge winning streak and then stormed through the playoffs. So that sort of thing happens. What you're looking at is consistency, though. And over the last 7 games, this defense has been very consistent. So I think it opened up some eyes of how a team could attack them. And now they've made, the necessary adjustments. And I think it also just kind of ticked them off a little bit. So that way they're getting it going. 49ers Josh says, does Kinlaw have any impact when he returns, or does he need surgery still? I think he's going to have, and that's what Scott's saying. What's your expectations on Kinlaw? I don't really have any expectations. What I'm hoping, this is what I'm hopeful for, is I'm hoping that he's going to play, 20 snaps, 20 to 25. That's kind of where Armstead played when he came back. and he's going to help stop the run. And with his big physical body and the fact that he says he got stronger since he's been hurt, I'm hoping he holds up and he's able to go out there and make plays. And when it gets to 3rd and long, you can still take Kinlaw off the field. You can put in Charles Omenihu. You can put in Drake Jackson and Jordan Willis and let them rush the passer as part of the Lightning package. But he can come in there and he can take on double teams and help stop the run. That's what I'm hoping. Those were kind of my expectations for Javon Kinlaw, is to help there. As far as how the knee responds, I have no idea. And I think that's what's kind of caught them off guard. They had no idea how his knee was going to respond. So I think that, they'll continue to, evaluate, but we're hopeful that he's going to be able to play out the rest of the season. The 3 regular season games, if they need to rest him for one, they could easily, but then the playoff run, that's where you want him. And you're trying to get him in football shape over the next several weeks. Tells us if Purdy plays well during the playoffs and wins the Super Bowl, and he was the main reason why, what's his trade value? I mean, huge. I would think. I would think a lot of teams would value that. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going to be willing to get rid of Brock Purdy. I'm not even sure he's going to be willing to trade Trey Lance. One thing about Kyle Shanahan, he's learned that they need to have a stockpile of players at the quarterback position. So I don't think he'd be willing to make a move for either of them, but there would be tremendous value. And I get it, Kels. You're not saying you want to trade Purdy, but yeah, there would be tremendous value for either one of them. There's going to be somebody that calls, and you never know what that amount of value is that, makes you go ahead and pull the trigger. Lance says, I would like to see more from Greenlaw. He's someone to be reckoned with. Pay attention to Greenlaw. Greenlaw's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Since his rookie year, you've seen these highlight plays, but I think the thing that stands out the most about Drake Greenlaw is his tackling ability. He doesn't miss tackles. He makes plays. He's getting better at covering, players in, with them going out in space. He just does a good job of everything. He's good in run fits. So he's one of those guys that's coming on. I thought last year was going to kind of be his coming out party. I thought he was going to get a Pro Bowl, kind of attention last year. But then he suffered the injury and he wasn't healthy pretty much all year. He came back against the Rams in week 18. It was gangbusters, blowing people up. Like, okay, this is who he was going to be. So when this season was going to start, I fully expected him to be a Pro Bowl player. I think he's had a Pro Bowl caliber season. He did not get the respect from the NFL, so he's going to have to go out there and take it. But a motivated Drake Greenlaw over the remaining part of the season is exactly what the 49ers need. I think there's a few guys that, you could you ticked off. Christian McCaffrey, Drake Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward. I love that Greenlaw and Ward are going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder and get out there and go take care of business. And Kelt says the Chiefs caught us right at the right time, like McCoy last year. Yeah, I think that game, came at a bad time for the 49ers, and the 49ers, they learn from mistakes. DeMeco Ryans and this staff, they're going to find ways to overcome, whatever, obstacles went their way. And then with some of it, when you get in those games and you're trying to make up ground, you get into quicksand. So then games start looking worse than they actually were. You compound problems. So yeah, it's, you don't really worry about that. And I think that, when it comes down to it, that Chiefs game, I think, did galvanize his team. So it's been a good thing so far. Freddie says, does the CMC trade rank number 1 all time in Niners trade? I don't know. I can't say that right now if that's the number 1 trade of all time, but that's a pretty good trade. I think Bill Walsh had some really good trades in drafts. But the 49ers have made some really sneaky good trades. Trent Williams trade was a really good trade. And I also think, under the radar trades for Jordan Wilson, Charles Omenihu have made this defense really, really good over the years. So, but we'll see if the 49ers are able to get a Super Bowl, the way Christian McCaffrey has changed his offense and the fact that they don't, they haven't lost really since he came and was able to have a full week of practice. You can't ignore how significant that trade was. 49ers Justice can't trade the quarterback who wins the Super Bowl though. You wouldn't think so, right? You just wouldn't think so. And Joseph Thomas says they aren't trading Purdy. Lance would be on the chopping block. Really, Purdy? I don't think they're trading Purdy either. And I don't think Kelts actually thinks that. I think he's just asking, what kind of value would he all of a sudden get in the league? And it would be tremendous. But, at that point, right, if he actually goes through the playoffs, plays at such a high level like he's been doing, and they win a Super Bowl, I think your mindset is more, I think we have a guy that, is a franchise quarterback. I think that's where the mindset starts going, and less about, dealing him and more about, we got a guy now. We've got a guy. Traffic says, I remember when the Chiefs were blowing out the Bucs in the regular season and then proceeded to lose to them in the Super Bowl. Could history possibly repeat itself? Love that, Traffic. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, that stuff happens all the time. You get blown out by one team during the season, and then when you match up, a lot of times that team that blew you out comes in with the mindset like, well, as long as we execute the same things that we did the previous matchup, we can beat you. And then the team that lost made all those adjustments, and now they're ready to attack you. And it's a different mindset. When you're going to play a team that you've blown out, that second time is tough. I mean, I remember playing a team before the playoffs one year when I was coaching, and we won big. I mean, we blew them up, but then when we played them in the playoffs, we only beat them, 8-0. It was a completely different game because it changed. They made adjustments. We had to make adjustments, but it is kind of tough. So it's rough. 49ers Josh says anybody can win a game, but win that one game in the bowl, give that player a chance. Yeah, I mean, I love it. Kenny says we need to test Kinlaw tomorrow to see if he's ready since they're already in the playoffs. Yeah, I think that's what they're doing. They're going to see how he responds. They also open the window for Kalia Davis as well. I think Kalia Davis is more of an insurance policy. I think they're really just looking at Kalia Davis to see where he's at, get that work in, so that way he gets a jump start on next year. But, I was excited to see some of the film of Kinlaw and Kalia Davis at practice. They were just going through simple drills, but you could see the explosion in their hips and the way that they were able to play. It's looking pretty good. I mean, explosiveness from both those players. Those players are young and exciting for sure. Kel says Purdy and Trey will be quarterback 1 and 2 next year. Thank you and goodbye, Jimmy. Yeah, I think they will be 1 and 2 next year. Rookie pay scale. It just makes a lot of sense this year. It ended up making a lot of sense for Jimmy to come back. But I think they've got some young studs now, and credit to them. Ben says we are on our third quarterback this year. We should not trade any of them away. I'm with you, Ben. I'm in agreement with you. Let's not get rid of any good quarterbacks. Let's go ahead and roll into those guys with next year. And Born Good says, do you think they are going to play Kalia Davis this week? I don't. They're not. I don't think they're going to play Kalia Davis this week. In fact, I don't think they're going to play him at all. I think he's going to go through the 3 weeks of practice. They're going to evaluate his progress, see how his knee holds up, and then they're going to wait and see where he looks like next year. I think that's the optimism, is that they can roll in, that Kinlaw's knee is going to hold up. They're going to have Eric Armstead. They're going to get Kevin Givens back in the next several weeks. They'll have him to be a part of it as well. So I think that they know they got a nice rotation there as long as Kinlaw's knee can hold up. And I think they're just looking to see where Kalia Davis is. I think, that 21-day window coincides pretty well with the last 3 weeks of the season. So I think that's where we're at. Brandon says, why would you trade Brock Purdy if they win a Super Bowl? If he fits the offense so well, you're paying him like $60K or $600K on a rookie deal. Yeah, you're not trading him. We're not trading Brock Purdy for sure. That's just not happening. Lance says Brady took a sack from Bosa. Do you believe they were just showing Brady some love because we were whooping them bad and they took away our touchdown? I think when it came down to Brady wanted to get rid of the football really, really fast. And there were times where they had to start holding the ball once the 49ers got up big. He was trying to take some shots down the field, and he wasn't able to. And, Bosa getting home to Brady, that was one of the fun things to watch, is Bosa going after Brady and wanting that so bad. But when it comes down to it, I mean, Tom is one of the best at getting rid of the football. He either finds an open receiver or he finds a place to get the ball, to the ground where he can't, suffer a sack or an interception. As he's gotten older, he really likes taking less hits. He doesn't like standing in there. He likes bailing away from the football. So, I mean, I thought that was a fun, tough matchup. I was excited about it overall. It was a good one. And, I think the 49ers have showed, this defense has showed they can play any type of quarterback, and they can have success doing it. So I think that's one of the reasons I like this defense so much. I think they're well balanced and able to handle good run games. They're able to handle good pass games. Most of the time you have defenses that can do one or the other really, really well. And then they have one part of that defense that's still trying to step up. But for this team, I mean, they're just well balanced for sure. Freddie says, what are the draft needs for next year? Whoa. Draft needs. I mean, we're going to have a lot of free agents. I think free agency is going to dictate draft needs. So we'll have to see what they do in free agency first, how many of their defensive linemen they're able to bring back, what they end up deciding to do with either Jimmy Ward or Tayshaun Gibson. I think those are going to be decisions. Emmanuel Mosley as well. So I think until free agency comes, we don't exactly know what those draft needs are. But I think those things will reveal themselves, once we get to the offseason. But right now, I'm excited about the 49ers playoff, opportunities and what they can do. Maybe they can win a Super Bowl. And East Coast says, "What's up, faithful? How's it going, East Coast Red and Gold podcast? I hope you're having a good day. Welcome to chat." And the 49er Josh is giving some love to Brent, said, "Just saying you're talking my type of football is all." Oh, yeah, having fun conversations in chat. So, guys, I'm going to hop off here. I really appreciate everyone coming through for the game preview show. Oh, wait. I did forget. You know what I did forget, guys? I forgot.
Wow, that's really bold. Whoa.
I forgot the Wow That's Bold prediction. Whoa. Yeah, for the Wow That's Bold prediction, I think the 49ers are going to force Taylor Heinicke into 3 turnovers, and they're going to get 4 sacks. I think this is going to be a defensive effort from them. I think they're going to make a huge impact. That's my Wow That's Bold. Taylor Heinicke with 3 turnovers, combination of interceptions and fumbles, and then 4 sacks from this 49ers defense. I think once they slow up the run, they're going to be able to get 3rd and long pressure onto Taylor Heinicke. I think it's going to be very, very tough. And also my score prediction. I've been thinking about this a lot. I've had a lot of guys, talking during the week. Most people have been saying 49ers score 27 points, and they hold, the Commanders to 16 or less. I think the 49ers are going to score a pretty good amount in this game. I think the 49ers are going to score 24 points. I think that's going to be enough to win. I'm going to go with 24-12. I think that's going to be the score of the game. The 49ers win by 12 in a nice win and continue their quest to get to that number 2 seed. Born Good says, "Do you think we're going to have the number 2 seed before it's all over?" I do. I think they're going to end up catching them. Yeah, and fill up chat right now with your bold predictions. Fill up with the scores. I'll go ahead and go through those real quick. 49ers Josh says 31-13 final score. I love it. Anytime the 49ers score 30 points, I think they're pretty much unbeatable. I don't think a team is going to be able to score, a lot on them. And East Coast Red and Gold podcast says that, they think it's going to be 28-10. So maybe that's the case. Maybe that's where they'll go. 28-10 would be a nice victory also. So I would definitely be okay with that. That's a nice significant win. So a long time. I was wondering if you would remember your bold predictions. Niners win 20-14. I was having such a fun conversation long time. Like chat has been going strong. I've been really enjoying it. I almost forgot, bold predictions and everything. Yeah, so I had to make sure I did that. And I'm wondering, long time, what's your bold prediction? Long time always gives me a good bold prediction. I'm curious what your bold prediction is going to be in chat, because it's always a good one. And 49ers Josh says predictions. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I almost passed it up. Can't believe I almost didn't get that done. But we're on it now. We're back to it. 49ers Josh says, "I said Kittle last week to have a breakout game and Bosa to get 2 sacks. I will say the same this week. Also call out Greenlaw to get a turnover." I love it. You were right. Last week, you said Kittle, and Kittle had a huge game. So well played. Traffic says 24-6 defense forces 2 turnovers with 5 sacks. I love it. 24-6. What a dominant performance that would be. Love that, Traffic. Helt says, "That's been my prediction all week. 31-13. Solid victory right there. 31 points. I love it. Against this defense, that would be a great performance from Brock Purdy in the offense. I would feel so much, so much more, even more comfortable. I'm already comfortable with Brock Purdy in this offense, but I'd just be more comfortable heading into the playoffs." Freddie McDre says 27-13 Purdy, 19 of 24, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. CMC Kittle TD. Love it. I mean, I love the specifics too. Well done. Gabriel Clark says, if we hold Washington under 70 rush yards, we make history beating the 2000 Ravens. Ooh, nice from Gabriel Clark coming through. So we need to watch that. Can we hold them under 70 yards and break a record from the 2000 Ravens? I think that would be cool. Freddie McDre says Mason gets his first TD also. Love that. Hell says bold prediction. Hufanga gets a pick. Number 5 for first-time Niner player since 2014. 5 interceptions. I mean, that's making plays. That's big time. I love that prediction, Kelts. And Josh is loving what Gabriel Clark said, like I was. Yeah, let's go. Tommy says, hey, diddle diddle, Kittle up the GD middle. I like the rhymes, Tommy. Are you sure you're a guitar player and not a West Coast rapper? Actually, Tommy rips on the guitar. I always enjoy watching his stuff. He does a good job. East Coast says, two tutties for 85. I love that. Ernest says, what's up, Ant? I'm glad to make a live. Yeah, what's up, Ernest? You're coming in at the tail end here. We're going over bold predictions. Throw your bold prediction in there. Show your score prediction, and let us know what you think. Long time says bold. MCM gets 100. I think you mean CMC gets 150 yards from scrimmage and 4 team sacks. Ooh, I love that. I love the 4 team sacks. That's what I'm thinking too. I'm thinking they're going to be able to make some plays. So, yeah. And Traffic says, did I just hear a 2000 Ravens comparison? That's how you know D is elite. You're right. I mean, that's how you know. When you start comparing to the 2000s Ravens or any of the 2000 Bucks, the early part of the Bucks, that's how you know you're one of those elite defenses, and this defense is. They've been playing very fantastic. And what's up, Gary? He says, keep an eye on Drake Jackson this week. I love it. One thing we know about Drake Jackson, he's probably going to have his hand up and around the football to bat it down. That's just something he's been doing at a high level all year. What's up, Matthew Rowley? How are you doing? He says, am I the only one that hopes the 49ers lose one of the remaining games? Too long a win streak scares me, and this team can always use motivation. I think sometimes, Matthew, that right, like people think, yeah, let's get a loss. You don't want to, go in that win streak like that. But sometimes you just start playing like that. You get like an invincible mindset. I mean, is it hard to continue winning streaks, like this? But when you're playing consistent, yeah, it is. But when you're playing consistent football like the 49ers are, you want to carry momentum into the playoffs. Do I think a loss would be the end of the world for the Niners? No. But do I think them winning out would be, bad for them either? No, I think it keeps them sharp. They stay sharp. They're competing for that number 2 seed. It gives them something to play for. And if something happens where Jalen Hurts is out for the rest of the regular season, and Gardner Minshew and that Philadelphia Eagles team is struggling over the next several weeks, that hope of maybe getting the 1 seed could even galvanize this team to play harder. So I get what you're saying, Matthew. I think that, there are a lot of people that would have the same beliefs as you, like, hey, let's lose a game. That way we're not carrying such a large winning streak into the playoffs. But I think this veteran-laden team understands that when you get to the playoffs, it's just a different world. So I think that's to remember too. Ordinary Josh says 85 Bears, 2000 Ravens, 2002 Bucks, and now the 2022 49ers. Let's effing go. Love it. Yeah, 49ers Justice. Okay, you guys got me ready to run through a wall. Put me in, coach. I can do it. LOL. Gary with optimism always. Yeah, it's fantastic. And guys, I just hit the 1 hour mark. I'm going to check out. I have some holiday things to do. I have a holiday party tonight. I'm going to put out the Madden sim here in the next 30 minutes to an hour. Check that out. It's a good one. Very exciting and actually pretty realistic. Madden sims have been doing very well this year as far as predicting the games. The 49ers are 10-4. Madden sims are 11-3. So Madden sims have been doing a good job. So if you like those, check those out. But thank you guys all for coming through. Merry Christmas to everyone. Check out the game reaction show tomorrow after the game. It's going to be great. Go Niners. And until next time, stay safe. And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.